Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sebastian, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty serious show, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to hit all notifications to be notified the second we drop our content, and check out the Dreamers Pro podcast that we have pinned below if you want our full show before it comes out on YouTube. Let me get into this topic here. So yesterday, there was a marquee game on TNT. And the game was between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, who were without Karl Anthony Towns. Now, the prior game that the Clippers played, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George did not play. The reason they didn't play, I thought, was because maybe they were injured, but it turned out that the Clippers were playing two games in a 22-hour window. So Ty Lue and the coaching staff said, to hell with that, we're not going to play those guys. But coming into last night's game, Kawhi Leonard was available and all of these guys were available. So what happened? The minute the game started, I noticed something different. I noticed that Kawhi Leonard was guarding Anthony Edwards at the beginning of the game, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And the Clippers were playing well in that first quarter. They finished the first quarter, I believe, with a 10-point lead, and in the second quarter they were doing well. So towards the second half, I noticed two things. I was like, well, they're leading the game, and I noticed Kawhi Leonard didn't return to the game. But I'm like, they're already up. It's pretty late where I am, so I'm just going to go to bed. So I went to bed. And then I woke up this morning and I saw that the Minnesota Timberwolves won the game. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not really surprised here, given the fact that the Clippers have been shaky since All-Star break, right? They've been very shaky. Going into All-Star break, they won the best 30-game stretch of any team in the NBA. And since then, they have been really, really, really shaky. So that break really seemed to hurt them in terms of their continuity, their rhythm, etc. So they lost the game. But then as I was kind of catching up with the news this morning, I then came across some information that it turns out Kawhi Leonard actually got injured in that game in the second quarter, and it was the reason he didn't return. And I was like, wait a minute, this is strange, because I'm like, why isn't he playing? And I figured something was up, but I didn't have any solid information. But as it turns out, Kawhi Leonard did get injured, and I want to read today from SI.com. But before we even get into this report of Kawhi Leonard's injury, this video is brought to you by our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is really simple. Instead of just selecting a team, you just select two or more players, pick more or less their projected stats, and then you place your entry. For example, this week, I'm selecting two entries. Stephen Curry for more than 25 points, and then I got Anthony Davis for more than 2 blocks, and Damian Lillard for more than 4 3-pointers made. Prize Picks is also the only daily sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So for example, if you have a player who gets injured in the first half and doesn't return to the second half, that player gets automatically rebooted. What I also love about Prize Picks is that it offers weekly promotions like Taco Tuesdays. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit matchup up to $100. That's go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. And once again, once you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So let me get into this article here. It says Kawhi Leonard injury update during Clippers versus Timberwolves. LA Clippers star Kawhi Leonard left Tuesday's night game versus the Timberwolves. It continues on. LA Clippers star Kawhi Leonard left Tuesday night's game versus the Minnesota Timberwolves with what the team is calling thoracic spasms. Leonard was seen on the TNT broadcast leaving the arena in street clothes, which of course indicated that he would not return. Prior to the start of the second half, the Clippers announced that the star forward is dealing with thoracic spasms. Leonard has been very durable for the Clippers this season and has his co-star Paul George. The two star forwards have been able to avoid any extended injury absences up until this point in the season. There is no timetable yet for Leonard's injury, and this diagnosis is still very early. So that's what that article had to say there. Let me get into what I think about this news. First of all, I don't think this is going to be a very big thing. I think Kawhi Leonard is going to return back, and things are going to be fine in terms of his injury. Although it's pretty devastating, and that's the reason we wrote it in the title, because of the seeding. Right now it's a pretty tight race at the top of the conference. I'll say the first 5 seeds are still in the position to move around a lot. So from that aspect, it's devastating news, because you want your best player on the court to be available to play these games and to establish continuity going into the playoffs. But I believe Kawhi Leonard will probably be back. Worst case scenario, he probably misses a week of games, or maybe 2, who knows. So that's that aspect. The other part that I really want to hone in on is the way the Clippers have been playing since the All-Star break. The Clippers have not looked good. They had an impressive win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I believe Karl Anthony Towns was in that game. They beat them by 1 point. It was very, very impressive the way they executed down the stretch. I think they beat them in that game by 1.89, 88 or something to that effect. It was a fantastic game. I enjoyed watching it. But overall, they haven't been playing well. A lot of these games have been getting down pretty early and then coming back and winning those games. That's certainly what they did against the Houston Rockets. And they're not showing me that championship kind of medal that I would be looking for a team heading into the playoffs. As of right now, I don't think they're a team that can come out of the Western Conference given how they're playing at this present moment. Things can change. Obviously, we still have some time. Obviously, when they acquired James Harden, they had a rough period, about a 7-game window when they didn't play well. But ultimately, they were able to self-correct, and then they went on that tear. So we have seen this team play very well. My biggest concern beyond the injury is how the team is playing and the continuity that they have. They've been lethargic, to put it kindly, since the All-Star break, and I would like to see the Clippers pick up their energy, pick up their urgency, or maybe they just listen, hey, we're biding our time. We don't want to exert ourselves too soon, and maybe start to ramp things up closer to the playoffs. As of now, I think that Kawhi Leonard's absence will have an effect on the team in terms of the seeding, and now we got to look in the direction of Paul George to really step up. Paul George, I have been shaky on him in terms of my sentiments about how he's been playing this season. There's been some games he's been sensational, but overall, I would like to really see him pick up that load, especially now that Kawhi Leonard is out. You still have 2 all-star players in Paul George and James Harden, so they still should be competitive. They certainly were competitive up until a certain point against the Milwaukee Bucks with Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So with Paul George back in the lineup, and in that game Paul George and Kawhi Leonard did not play, I still think this team should be competitive. They have a very deep roster with Coffey, Norman Powell, Bones Highland, and so many other players, although they're missing Russell Westbrook. So I still expect this team to be competitive, and they better be competitive, because there's going to be a lot of moving that's taking place in that Western Conference, and the Clippers, I think, need to assure that they are at least a top 4 seed in the Western Conference heading into the playoffs, because things can move around, and there are a lot of dangerous teams in the West. And I think a team that a lot of people are not talking about enough, and Jamal Crawford brought it up yesterday, is the Phoenix Suns. They're going to be a tough out. They're going to be absolutely a tough out, because they have a powerhouse offense over there with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. So we have to wait and see. These are just my initial thoughts on this. So what I want to know from you guys is simply this. What do you think about the news of Kawhi Leonard? How long do you think is going to keep him sidelined? And number 2, what do you think about how this team is playing right now and what they need to improve on heading towards the playoffs? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'll catch you on the next show. Peace.